known. Have already given us so we'll be able to get data. Now that there are universities that are not telling the truth. Of this message that I have. Thank you, Speaker. There is the issue of the woman you met on Saturday.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Balance in Ikanga girls of 56,320.
The data you put in, because
are you going to clear this or the students should go to
the assessment is based on self-generated data.
The students should go direct.
So if you put in data based on erroneous facts or misapprehension of facts,
I can tell you
understanding, wrongly banded.
Then advise students in your constituency on reporting the injustice. They go to that desk, and I hope that desk
agree with what
and explain that I went to a national school in Alliance or Kamsinga,
but I would like to
not
ask,
because I was rich,
is it possible
but because I passed well at
the
standard
data
8 or 7, standard 8,
with the data from the secondary school, not comparing with the secondary school that child went to, but the data from that secondary school because the children are known, and link it with what the Honorable Member for Kishugu has said. Or also link it to data from the ground, from provincial administration, because these children are known, from the Ministry of Interior. We'll be able to get data now that there are universities that are not telling the truth. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, allow me, Mr. Speaker, that Parliament is given information that is factual. The statements are factual. Now, I can tell you and prove to you that some of this information you have given here is not correct. And we have said, and I agree with what Honorable Gishuma said, there is no information on the ground. I have and I engaged Madam PS, and you need to confirm, because I went to the ministry at the county level, I went to the sub-county at the constituency level. What you have written here is wrong. Please correct that impression that you have created. Number two, Mr. Speaker, you need to convince us that this mean testing is correct. I wouldn't have expected you to come to Parliament with the data tabulated per region, per criteria that you have used to justify that the mean testing that you are using is correct. Now, without that, you cannot claim that a student are following by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is wrong.
You've made your point. Carolo Mondi.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I'll try to be very brief. Let me start by saying that this issue is not new to Kenya. I think one of the countries with the best funding model for university education is Canada. And it is very highly automated, so that there's no fraud, there's no corruption, and the system works. I think the biggest problem we have here is the way these social parameters are being applied. We are dealing with a financial question, but we are applying social parameters, not financial tools. I think that is the biggest problem in this model. And what I would recommend is, if you look at all these social parameters, they will not tell you what somebody's income is or financial status is. You need to approach this thing using financial tools, like you are a credit committee in a bank. And this information is there. And the application, I would suggest, are made while people are still in high school, so that the teachers and the students can work together and capture the historical data on how those students have been financed over the years and fitted into the metrics, whatever system you call it. If you have a bank credit system, every parent has a telephone number these days. You can go and get M-Pesa records of a family, and you will know their income. You can go to KRA. You can go to salary slips. There's enough financial tools that if we apply to this system, we will get to know who are in need and who are not in need. Because if we leave it blank and use social parameters like polygamy and all these other things I'm seeing here, we are opening a very good system to fraud and corruption, and to politicians like us who will want to encourage people to go and get loans without having the responsibility to pay for them. This system only works where there is honesty and where there is repayment and where there is no corruption. So the first thing you must do is to change the parameters. Don't focus on the social parameters as much. Use financial tools. Thirdly, I think for those students who have applied, and they should apply while they're still in high school, when they get the letter, that letter should serve as a guarantee for their admission, even before the funds are disbursed. Then we will solve a lot of these other problems you see us having here. But otherwise, Mr. Speaker, social parameters, open to manipulation, open to corruption, we will kill a good idea. Start using financial tools in making analysis of who is in need. People will not go to the wrong banks if you act as a credit committee of a bank. And the information is there. Let nobody tell you there's no information. There's enough information. How much did you farm last time? How much crops did you harvest? It is there because people are receiving fertilizer. People are receiving different things. Otherwise, these social parameters will not help us. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
McLap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All of them, you'll answer them together.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be very brief and candid. Number one, Mr. Speaker, using this write-up that they have used bans on monthly income of families to determine what a family or a student should pay. When you turn to the other page, Mr. Speaker, they are saying there is a mini testing tool, and they have come up with parents, gender, cost, expenditure. Mr. Speaker, there is no collinearity between these social factors that do not have an assigned figure mathematically and the incomes of the families. Mr. Speaker, the incomes of the families are determined by salaried people. Salaried people. To determine these bands are determined by salaried people. But those who are not salaried, Mr. Speaker, are actually unique. It's unpredictable. So they are using an imagined constant as opposed to continuous variables that continue to affect income of families. So I will challenge that, Mr. Speaker. Two, and propose this, Mr. Speaker, and going to the last. I propose to the team that this thinking of funding of university is good, but requires refinery. Mr. Speaker, if you do 5% on cost over cost in university and allow the students pay the fees on 5% of the cost that they do, as opposed to these funds, then you will have a graduated, evenly funding, Mr. Speaker, that do not discriminate and based on what you earn, Mr. Speaker. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, is the parties. Mr. Speaker, the resolutions that we want to come to this house, because you have invited us to come to this house, not in vain, but to sort out a problem in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, resolution number one that you've said to come out very clearly this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, because the students are being admitted daily, is number one, the students do report to university and the universities sort out the accommodation and the appeals and the applications when they are in the university unconditionally. Second, Mr. Speaker, that a degree, as you say, Mr. Speaker, of all certificates held, I am lucky because in the schools that I have called to release certificates, because I am aware, Mr. Speaker, of a circular from the Ministry of Education saying that all secondary schools to release certificates, and they are not doing it because of this communication. So, Mr. Speaker, that should be communicated throughout the Republic of Kenya. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the parties, the presidential party to funding of university education. So, Speaker, can we review this so that you include the members of this house? Because this is where the rubber meets with the road. We know what is happening in Kenya. We don't want people to make decisions who are living in utopia. We are the people who meet with the customer daily basis, Mr. Speaker, and we have the best solution for education in Kenya, Mr. Speaker. I beg to raise my case, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Aldai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have really raised my hand because I really wanted to bring out this point.
You have now
thank you, Mr. Speaker. This means testing instrument, I think, is now the biggest elephant in this room. It is bigger than everything else because the methodology or all these parameters they've set up are what is actually causing students to be placed in bands that they do not belong. I will take a student from the Nandi escarpment, where I come from, the lower hills of the escarpment, who has been called to Nairobi University. He has filled this form because when he tried filling, he came to a cyber near, maybe far away from his home, tried filling this despite the difficulties, filled this information, told and this information, they come and check on whether you are marginalized. That particular kid is marginalized, but because our data here in Nairobi does not show that this kid who is living in an escarpment is marginalized, he'll get a 0 or whatever rating that he'll get there, yet that kid for real is marginalized. You come to a child, maybe has both parents, but because the system says when you have both parents, maybe your rating goes down. When you have one parent, the rating goes up. There are even families where one parent or an orphan who were given inheritances that are better than situations where both parents exist. So if you look at the whole MTI tool that is being used, that is where the elephant in this room is. And therefore, and when you tell these students, come back for a review of your rating, they will still use the same tool to review the same student. So at the end of the day, it is a zero-sum game because this student will go to Nairobi University, comes from Aldai, go to Nairobi University.
University of Nairobi?
University of Nairobi, okay. The university, what do we want us to change here? The child changes 1, 2 things. They review the child from band 5 to band 4. Yet that child actually needs to be in band 1 because of the situation in which they are in. So my issue, Mr. Speaker, is that this particular banding and this particular review is the major elephant in the room, which is something that needs to be relooked at. And I would like the suggestion that reviews of these students be done right at the location, at the village level, because we have not reached this level. Member. We've not reached this level as a country to be able to band and review students like this, because even us as human beings, we don't give the correct data. And finally, Mr. Speaker, we have so many budgets all over, like the political parties fund. It can also be used and be taken to universities so that universities can get more funding for students to upgrade the facilities and all those kind of things. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's have them answer that. Yes, what's your point of order, Wakili?
Mr. Speaker, I think from what I've listened to all the members, I think we have reached a level whereby, Mr. Speaker, we have started repeating ourselves. I think, Mr. Speaker, it's high time you give directions. No, I'm not spoken. It's a high time, Mr. Speaker, you give directions. I think we have captured the elephant in the room, the MTI, the communication, the bundling together of the bursary. I think it's high time, Mr. Speaker, so at least again, we can be able to conclude. Kindly, Mr. Speaker, I request that you give directions. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I have a different point, please. I beg you.
Just hold your horses, Mama.
Thank you.
Honorable.
I didn't say ride your horses. Hold your horses.
Honorable.
Yes,
Speaker.
Some of them are overlapping. Yes. Like the issue raised by Rindikiri and Maklap is almost the same. So can you answer them quickly?
Yes.
I do one last round, then we adjourn.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I would like to respond to the issue raised by Honorable Rindikiri. I did communicate with him and provide the information that he requested for. That information was very useful to other members of Parliament as well. Honorable Speaker, we at the State Department are trying very much to collaborate with other state agencies to communicate. With a humble budget of 600,000 a year for communication, as a State Department, we are really struggling and working with other agencies to help us reach out. Then there were issues on the means testing instrument, and I want to say that the means testing instrument worked quite well last year because we only had, so 9,726 appeals. Sounds like there were many, but there were 10%. For every model, a 10% error can actually be accommodated. But of this 9,726, upon reviewing all the information, 5% were successfully processed, while the rest, we explained to them why they had to remain in those bands, and the students are continuing learning. However, the real issue is, how do these parameters interact? Because they interact in a very complex mathematical model. And Honorable Speaker, if you would give us some 3 minutes, I would call Mr. Mbala to just explain briefly how the variables interact in the mathematical model. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mr. Speaker, honorable members. My name is William Mbala. I work with the Higher Education Loans Board. The various indicators that have been chosen to help us determine the level of need of students for purposes of assisting financially are chosen from the research that was done by KNBS, most specifically the Kenya Poverty Report 2020. And then these particular indicators, we go ahead and rank them using analytical process called AHP, whereby we are able to compare one parameter or indicator over another to determine which one has the highest of, or the most important to determine level of need. That process, or that formula, which was invented in 1975 by one Professor Saati in the United States, is what we use to be able to give weights for each indicator. Pardon? Thank you.
Yes, go on.
I'm done, Honorable.
You are done. Take your seat. PS.
Honorable Speaker, there was a mathematical function that he was to demonstrate, but I guess it is too complex, but if we...
This is not a classroom. Just answer the questions as they asked.
Thank you very much, yes. Honorable Chair. So Monari will complete the 3 other questions.
Monari.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will answer the questions from Honorable Robert Kithinji from Gishugu. On collaboration, this is quite a good idea. In fact, in the next funding cycle, we'll be able to collaborate with secondary schools and ensure that we work together for them to give us more information regarding these students. So we'll have a more accommodative model which can be able to get information from secondary schools.
Point, Chair, Honorable Speaker, clarification.
Yes.
My question was, can't you make it easy this year, because this is now that we have these problems, for the students to report, then within a week, we can be able, if you calculate this information to the constituency, we will be able to give you the correct info. We can call all the students that come from our constituencies. We parade them. Yeah, all the needed students, because not everyone will come out. We'll just call for every person who wants funding from the university.
You made your point. Yes, Monari?
Yeah.
He's repeating what he said earlier, yes, which he thinks you are avoiding.
Yeah. No, we are going to accept all the information. The students can be able to upload that information when they are doing their appeals. So your suggestion is highly accepted, and we shall be able to
you remember, Chair, even the time of appeal that was asked by Honorable Undo has not even been given. So, or 3 weeks.
Yes.
Member for Gishugu.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
He said earlier, probably because you had stepped out, because I saw you here very early, that they have set up desks at every university. That on arrival, and this is what used to happen even those long time ago when we were going to university, you would go there and change your faculty. You could go there and address difficult issues that you are facing. So he says they have set those desks. So your duty now is to tell students from your jurisdiction that if you have any challenges, when you get to your university, go straight to the desk where you can give information that can alter whatever you want to be adjusted if you gave it in error. Monar, isn't that correct?
Yes,
That is what
correct.
you said?
Yes. That is correct, Honorable Speaker.
Maybe you give a chance to all those who have not spoken, then you'll give direction, Mr. Speaker.
I am going to do that.
Instead of them answering, allow them to ventilate and then you'll give direction.
I'll call the following so that we don't leave out anybody.
But
Wamshomba,
But, Mr. Speaker, my question
Yes.
was not partly answered.
it will be answered. Just hold your horses. Okay, PS.
I asked for tabulation
She
of
said
data.
she has been meeting you in her office.
No. I've been calling her, and what I said is the information they have put here is wrong. It's
Yes.
not correct. And I also asked that you they give us tabulation of data per category.
PS.
That
go ahead.
mean that was entered into determining. Because garbage in and garbage out.
You know, Orindikiri, this is self-generated data, isn't it?
Mr. Speaker, if we get that data,
Yes.
if we get that
You
data,
want to get it to compare with what you
yes,
have.
we what we have in the ground.
That's
Because
public information.
75% of students in Meru County, they are all falling between bad 5, 4, and 5. The entire Meru County.
Like Kilifi.
Yeah.
Go on.
Something is wrong.
PS.
Honorable Speaker, I would, with your permission, I will demonstrate. I will demonstrate how we are dealing with some of these issues because they are real. I have a student whose data was shared by one of the members of parliament here, and we downloaded because they had not been properly categorized. And when we downloaded the data that the student had provided, the honorable member said it was not true and then gave additional information saying this person has 9 siblings, 1 brother is at Great Lakes University, 2 brothers completed Form 4 are idling, a sister is due to join Rift Valley, has a sibling in Form 4 likely to get an A, has another sibling in Form 2, 2 in primary. 1 hasn't started schooling, I've spoken to him and it is a sad story. And he used a cyber guy to complete the data. He wouldn't allow him to check the authenticity. I'm just wondering how many other kids have suffered in the hands of the cyber people. I will set up a constituency help desk, at least 1 per ward. So what I'm saying, Honorable Speaker, is that the issues that we have shared are real and we are addressing them.
Thank you. Wamchomba, followed by Karemba, followed by Kadambi, followed by Jared Okello, followed by Lillian Kogo, Mayaka, Kihara, then Kipchumba.
Mr. Speaker, sir, point of order, please. Because Kajiado County has not been had any member. And we come from marginalized places, please.
Take your seat.
Thank you.
Wamchomba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And those members have called out, please take a minute each. We have overshot our time by more than an hour.
Many other times, Mr. Speaker, we have called parents and students for bursary screening in our constituencies. And more specifically, I speak for Githunguri. And every time you call students to provide information, some of them are so shy to tell you that they have drunkard parents. They are very shy to admit that their home is poor. They are very shy to actually tell you information that they claim it is in their personal space. So in our attempt to screen students and categorize them in the means testing instrument that has been used here, I think we have just got it wrong. Screening students who have not accepted that they come from poor backgrounds and insisting from them to get information, we are not going to get the actual information. I have had incidences where
You call those students even into the offices to come and get to understand them more, and they even refuse to attend, only for their mothers to show up later to complain that their students were omitted because the student did not own up to information. So I'm appealing to the PS. Please, kindly review the means testing instrument. And I would request and beseech of you, please benchmark from the best. We have had private organizations that have been providing bursaries in our backyard. For example, we have the Wings to Fly program. These people go home to home, not because they did not have access to the student, but they realize that the student may not give you the actual information that can be used to actually engage the needy cases of the students. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for having called this Kamukunji, because we realize that we are suffering from lack of information. And from the engagement in this room, we actually can confirm there is a very serious information gap. And if that gap is not going to be sorted in the shortest way possible and days possible, we might land into a confusion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Karemba. Just press and it comes on. Thank you. Thank you. Go to the next.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Now, the new funding model, Honorable Speaker, I am thinking was supposed to address the crisis of the university funding. And I would like to hear from Madam PS whether indeed she believes that the new funding model is going to sort out the funding crisis in the universities. Then finally, Honorable Speaker, I heard a pronouncement by the President on this issue, if I am not wrong, on the issue of the communication that was done by various universities. Because among the letters that I have seen, even those from my constituency, have very scaring figures of about 300,000, 200,000. Have the universities considered the issue of reissuing admission
It was in
letters?
public media that they withdrew that communication, I think.
Have they reissued the letters?
Chancellor, is that correct? Give him the mic. You know you have to go on record. When you whisper to me that it's sure, it doesn't help the House.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, yes, we did indicate that the fees or the letters that we had issued earlier on, we know the costs therein, and we promised that as from 5th of August, we will be issuing other letters showing household costs. And those letters
How soon are you issuing those letters?
We have already released them, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, yes, say so.
They are there, they are already circulating, and so the households know what they are paying, and everything else is silent.
Thank you.
Yes, I am, and I would urge that they employ the technology so as to ensure that the letters get to the students as fast as possible.
And you see, Professor, the problem we have is still communication. When His Excellency the President directed that you withdraw the letter, the public got to know. When you withdrew and issued the next letter, the public never got to know. And that's what we should improve, Madam P.S. Karemba, you are done. Kadambi, 1 minute. You have been agitated the whole afternoon.
And I'm expecting your, Mr. Speaker, sir, you had me a minute. Mr. Speaker, allow me just to comment first. With the explanations through the PS, I find that, Mr. Speaker, they are lacking a lot of information. It might be a very good idea, but how to implement it, how to sustain it, it has a lot of questions. Mr. Speaker, sir, there is burden when identifying the poor children, because I'm a single constituency member of Parliament, Joro, and sometimes we do even locational committee so that we can look for these poor people. Madam PS, I'm interested to understand, do you expect or does your team have a clue that there's a probability for a person qualifying to be band 5, that person can qualify to be band 1? Do you expect that? Mr. Speaker, do they have a room probably for the manual transactions? And I'm asking this question considering that we have so many constituencies, including mine, which is not 100% connected with the matters of electricity. Mr. Speaker, sir, and on that point, let us also remember we have poor children, poor families, who even cannot afford a plate of food. Therefore, even the matters of telephones, smartphones, the computers, the issues of internet, it is still a challenge. Do we have a room for the manual transactions? And lastly, Mr. Speaker, please, Mr. Speaker, 1 minute. I find it, when they give grace period of 1 year, it is not reasonable. Why, Mr. Speaker? In this country, we have brothers and sisters, and even some poor children we have taken to schools with the CDF, who even have finished universities. Even for the last 2 to 3 years, they have not gotten jobs. Therefore, the period grace for 1 year, it is not appropriate,
For 1
Mr.
year
Speaker.
to do what?
I am advising the ministry, Mr. Speaker, sir, to just go and do adjustment, at least to add it from 1 year to probably 2 to 3 years, so that the people shall have finished the universities. They have not gotten jobs. And this, Mr. Speaker, I'm talking through the experience and what is there today in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Okello, avoid the temptation to make a speech. Just ask a question.
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and I also thank you for convening this Kamukunji, which is quite insightful. Honorable Speaker, I've got 2 notable concerns. Number 1 is that even in organizations that aspire to come up with new systems, there's always a test run that is carried out. And there you determine the efficacy levels, but most importantly, it helps you know which direction the whole organization, together the new system, is heading to. Now, all these problems are coming as a result of confusions. From the ministry itself, we have seen cases where they have issued letters, recall letters, issue new letters. So even to them, they are not sure whether this is a system that is going to withstand the test of time, Honorable Speaker. And how I wish, therefore, that instead of killing the past, or rather the traditional system that we have been accustomed to, that they did it in phases, so that we also know exactly what our students will be.
She said they're running purposes.
Yeah, but they have killed the previous one, Honorable Speaker. Now, Honorable Speaker, one thing that must not escape our attention is that for the longest, students have been paying between 22,000 to 53,000 shillings. Now, with a new funding model, the fees escalated to over 400,000 shillings, but it is clothed in some many funding under it, so that people think that they are only paying that deficit, which is between 20,000 to about 53,000, again, Honorable Speaker. But all these are loans. So what the students must brace for, Honorable Speaker, is that upon graduation, they have huge loans to service. I'm afraid some of them may not even get jobs, but even if you are so fortunate to do, prepare yourself to pay back these monies to the government that will be running into 2 million, 3 million, and even more, Honorable Speaker, depending on the course. So how I wish, therefore, Honorable Speaker, that we just adopted the previous payment model together with the accompanying fees that do not necessarily attract these 400,000 shillings that we now see in the fee structures, Honorable Speaker, that will then be transferred to parents and to the beneficiaries at the end of the day, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you.
And I thank you for the opportunity.
Kogo.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, for giving everyone an opportunity to speak. That is the person that you always are. I will be very quick to make comments because most questions have been asked. But Honorable Speaker, allow me to be the devil's advocate here. I want to speak from the point of information I was at the University of Nairobi yesterday, School of Law, at one of the lecture theaters where they were admitting law students. And Honorable Speaker, I am here to confirm and congratulate University of Nairobi because that's the only place where I went to verify the workability of this system at the ground level. And we had many students who had challenges with fees, application, and they were all gathered in one of the halls. I can report as a member of parliament for Rangwe constituency, Honorable Speaker, nobody was turned away because of school fees. As a matter of fact. So I saw that, and I want to thank the system, I want to thank the ministry, but you need to do better. Nobody was turned. I don't know what happened in other universities. I don't know what is going to happen in the ones who are going to be admitted later, but yesterday, no student was turned away because of his. Madam PS, what informs a basic earning of 5,000 and not 2,000 and not 3,000? Where did you get that information from? Number two, why not build hostels for our students, even from the affordable housing scheme? Why not build hostels instead of burdening our students with loan? And this is what depresses young people to the point of committing suicide. Number three, Honorable Speaker.
Three and last.
I am very fast and I've waited, Honorable Speaker, and I'm your friend.
Everybody else has.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mheshimiwa. Thank you, Speaker. Another matter that is of concern to me, I am really, really worried. If a 1975 model of MTI can be used to get interactions of variables and make decisions, when we have better models, newer models like principal component analysis that can give you interactions of the various. Why did you go for 1975 model? Finally, Honorable Speaker, I want to say this. We do not need as a country, the respect that Kenya gets outside here is more than its measure. We do not need to move from one mathematical model to another one, exchanging models after models after models and depressing parents. What we need to fix education of this country is free education. That is all we require. We do not want to know how you have gone to school and you come up with this model. We are not, mathematics is not for fixing poverty. We want actualization of issues, qua ground. That is all we want. We do not want, Honorable Speaker, nikamaliza kabisa, I will not talk again. We do not want to depress young people with burden of loans when they start working. Let them go, look for jobs that we should also provide as a country so that we make Kenya a better place to live in. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Mayaka, 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Don't
Finally.
emulate your neighbor. Take 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'll be very brief. Honorable Speaker, I was just looking at the task force report that was shared together with this document. And one of the things that is very apparent is that, number one, there was no pilot done for this system for you to be able to determine the criteria that you're using, because you cannot use a social criteria methodology on informal income earning Kenyans and people in the agricultural sector. That doesn't make sense. Number two, Honorable Speaker, we have a report here that has recommendations and mitigations without any timelines. It just says what doesn't work, but doesn't say when it can be made to work. Number three, Honorable Speaker, when you're using a 1975 model, it's akin to using a Nokia 3310 in the current age. And the way systems and technology is so dynamic, it means that we are not helping our Kenyans. And finally, Honorable Speaker, if you notice one of the task force recommendations here, it actually says that the PWDs cannot be able to use this system. So what happens to children who are PWDs? Do they not go to university? Because there's no solution given here. Thank you. And finally, Honorable Speaker, I just want to
I
suggest...
thought she said they get special
This one is a
consideration.
suggestion, Honorable Speaker,
Yes.
that will be very helpful to all members, is that the Q&As that we've asked and the responses that we've
Jen
gotten,
Kihara.
yes, if you can get that together, and also just do brief videos on X and TikTok for the young people who are the consumers of this,
Thank
so
you,
that they can
Irene.
be able
Take
to
your
know.
seat.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Jen Kihara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this chance. We are lucky you called this Kamukunji, which has addressed most of the things, but I can say that actually this information was not for us because they are not addressing the clients. I know the PS had a meeting with the student leaders, which did not end very well. I hope by now, from what has come out of this Kamukunji, most of the answers will have been asked. I'll only be able to answer the clients who come to me, like this one here, who sent me a message, and I beg the PS, Madam PS, to answer for me. Dear our MP, I'm a resident of Kayore, Naivasha, next to Chief's office, where I live with my 3 sons in a 2-roomed house where we all share 1 room as a bedroom. I'm seeking your help since my firstborn son was schooling at Kagumo High and attained grade A, where he left huge balance, but the principal was merciful enough to clear for me. My problem is that he is to pursue a degree in dental surgery in Nairobi University. But unfortunately, the government placed him in band 5, where I'm supposed to pay 245,200 in a year. Not forgetting that I'm jobless. I have another kid in Form 3, where I also have a balance of fees. I'm writing this to you, it's because you will find it in your favor, in your heart, to assist me. God bless you. I'm pleading to be placed, even if it is band 2, where I can even get help from friends in case I got stuck. But band 5, there is even no need starting this. So the recipient of this message is not us. I'll be able to get an answer now here. But the actually this information should go to the parents.
We already have the answer.
That's what I'm saying. It should go to the parents, the clients, and the students.
Now tell that parent that you are told in this house, in this meeting, that when the student reports to the university, he goes straight to the desk that has been set up and informs them that he has been placed in the wrong band on the basis of wrong information.
Mr.
Which
Speaker,
wrong information? Let me finish for you.
Okay.
Which wrong information was acknowledged by the peers? That they have taken some students from national schools where the fees is high, and they have operated on the presumption that that gives a background of what their parents earn, which is not true. So tell the parent to tell the son, the student, to go and correct
That's
that.
why this Kamukunji is important, because now they'll get to hear from the media and us, but the ministry is not doing anything to communicate to the correct recipients.
Exactly. Thank you, Jen. And media help the country on this. That's why we call you here to help us. Kipchumba Wakili.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for calling us for this Kamukunji so that we can discuss this very important issue. Honorable Speaker, this new funding model heralded a significant shift in policy. Honorable Speaker, going forward, before such a policy is adopted, my proposal is it would be prudent to be brought before the floor of this House to be discussed and members adopt it as a whole. Because, Honorable Speaker, this report was never brought before the floor of this House so that members could discuss it at that point and understand. Number 2, Honorable Speaker, Thomas Fuller said that seeing is believing, but feeling is the truth. Honorable Speaker, I have read through this report. One of the issues that has been raised is that the level of need relies heavily on the information provided by the applicant Honorable Speaker, why can't the ministry visit the household of these particular students to determine by seeing, by feeling it, so that before the band is, before they are categorized in certain bands, they have visited their household to determine the level of poverty. Some of us, Honorable Speaker, from our community, we take pride in our cows. We take pride in our farms. We take pride in our livestock. Honorable Speaker, it is very hard for a Kalenjin person to tell you that I am poor. So some of these are out of information that is not given correctly because we never, or that they never visited the actual students on the ground. Honorable Speaker, I propose that they form a committee. We did a census in this country, Honorable Speaker, where the households were visited. Honorable Speaker, what stops the ministry from going to, from household to determine the actual need of these students?
Thank you. Parashina?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving us Kajiado an opportunity also. First of all, I need to appreciate your humility and patience. Since 9 up to now, not since 10 up to now, Mr. Speaker, today I salute you. Thank you so much. Mr. Speaker, the only issue that I really needed to raise, we should not do experimental exercise with our students. This program is getting as it is kicking on. It should have been able to have, as the way Mr. Honorable Kipchumba said, we could have discussed it before now being going for experiment. These are the challenges that people are facing just because of the policy that the ministry has introduced without first of all explaining to the public. Number two is the issue of the, as I told you, as I said, I come from the arid areas. The issue of the bands. Band 1, we could have seen here a proposal that the band 1 should be pure scholarship. I might have been coming from a very poor family, and I'm talking from the people of Kajiado South, and I'm very poor, and I don't have an opportunity to get even the 5,000 or even to anything that I'm supposed to be in any income to equate me to 5,000, and I'm left outside. So then my point is, if possible, we introduce the issue of full scholarship. And this full scholarship should be able to take care of me, maybe if I'm born as from the poor background. I should be given a same opportunity as someone who's getting the other opportunity, who can access the education. Rather than, if I'm forced to take the 95% loan, that kind of program, then tomorrow, the issue of repayment to me becomes also a burden to my life, and even securing an opportunity for jobs become also a challenge. So, if possible, there should be a full scholarship for the students who are categories of very poor, very poor and vulnerable. And even the issue of having 100% should be introduced. My last point is about repayment. When we cleared university, some of us also got the help loan. When we are coming to contest for these seats, we are even to be told you have to come with a clearance from help loan. And if the way they are saying that a 1 year repayment, that again is not in the good spirit. There should be repayment. If you are able to connect repayment and employment, it should be the better thing. Many people now are suffering the penalties and everything. You get that you have took a loan of 200,000, now it's going to almost 500,000 for purpose of giving everyone fairness. If I have an opportunity of getting an employment, then my penalties will start there. Not having a penalty for the time I graduate from the university.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Parashina. Mwalio?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. We really thank you for calling us to come and discuss about the model of funding the university and our colleges. I want to say that everybody has said about the way the assessment of the income of every parent has been done is not correct. And I say this because one of the Masons who called me yesterday, he said because his employer has been transferring money through his M-Pesa to buy materials for where he is supervising the employer's building. 200,000 has passed through his M-Pesa, and therefore the assessment has placed him his income as 230,000, which is not true, because the mason earns maybe 1,500 per day or 2,000, and that translates to 60,000 in a day if he works for 30 days. But now he has been classified in band 5, whereby he cannot be able even to afford to take the student to the university. So that model everybody has talked about should be able to be checked. And if everything is checked, this will be the game changer for educating our students who are needy, because all of them will be able to go to the university.
Thank you, well done. Oyula?
Thank you, Speaker, for the opportunity. Speaker, I have only one issue which I've come across and it's really affecting students in my constituency, that is Butula. There are cases of repeal that have again been rejected, and these students come from very poor background. The cases are rejected because the students were in a national school, and that means they had the ability to pay. So I would want the PS to ask the relevant universities to go up to the family level before the appeals are rejected. Because these appeals come from very needy students. And just because we have sponsored them to go to the national schools, the appeals are turned down.
Thank you. Hamala?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I don't think I will repeat what the other honorable members have already raised. I just have a plea to the PS, Honorable Speaker, who happens also to be my sister from my village, that Honorable Lillian gave me some answers because I was really concerned about how the universities will treat the students on arrival. And she told me that Nairobi University, actually she spoke to all of us here just a few minutes ago, that the University of Nairobi was doing a good job by accepting the students because the misplacement that has taken place has brought a confusion on the ground. One of the parents from my village, his name is Stanley Ndeta, the daughter has been placed in band 5, yet I know it's just a struggler in the village. And so the universities should emulate the University of Nairobi so that this can be corrected. The anomalies were, some of them, Honorable Speaker, the students went to the cyber cafes, and because of the internet problems, they left their information with the operators of the cyber cafes who entered wrong information or just did what I would say uniform information. And therefore, if this will be corrected at the university level, we will appreciate. Thank you.
Yes, Naomi Wako. 1 minute.
Thank you.
Just press.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand on behalf of those people who come from the dry areas and desert in this country. And most of the time, even to apply for the form, for the application is very difficult because most of them come from where we do not have even internet. So how, because right now they have been locked out, and how can we make it easier for them to apply? And then number 2, we have the issue of IDs. Majority of them do not have their IDs, even as they join universities. It is hard for them to apply and even be accepted.
She said to apply, you use index number.
Index number?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But it's not an excuse not to have an ID.
Yeah.
We must help our children to get IDs.
To get IDs, yes. So how can we make it easier for them to apply? And because their parents don't work, they have nothing and they have no income, it's quite difficult. How can we make it relevant to them?
Thank you. Last, Ruku. 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Don't make a speech.
Yes. Two issues, Mr. Speaker, which I'm requesting the Minister of Education to address or to attempt an answer, is that there are serious concerns as far as management of our universities is concerned. And what we are addressing at the moment are symptoms of this disease. That, for instance, we have a crisis going on at the moment at the University of Nairobi, where the VC, the Vice Chancellor, is drawn out now and then, and we have seen this several times. Also, Mr. Speaker, the allocation of resources to non-core business of the university, which is research and knowledge dissemination. They are left with a very low budget, whereas huge budgets are allocated to building of complexes, construction, renovations, and such kind of project within the universities. What is the ministry doing to this effect to ensure the management of our universities are done properly? The universities which have huge real estate, for instance, the University of Nairobi has one of the most prime real estates owned by universities. What is the ministry doing so that we can be able to use our resources in a most prudent manner, most appropriate manner, and we can even have schemes within the universities paying fees for masters and PhD students, not only depending on scholarship from other countries. And
you're done?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, thank you. Chairman of the committee. Yes, what's your point of order, Mama Dagoretti?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I know we have kept you here just to thank you also on the patience you've had on us. Mr. Speaker, I want the ministry to go and look at one thing. The safety of the students. We must relook at the hostel issue and see how we can bring back the hostels back inside the schools, because they have land. You can work together with those who are the private, but lease them inside so that they can be inside the university for safety, Mr. Speaker. And try and paint Nairobi University. Tell them to paint those old buildings that we have seen for many years, and the curtains and everything. Make the university look habitable for the children who have come from the rural, who have never seen something good than them going to Githurai. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Honorable Speaker.
Lillian, I want us to wind up. What's your point of order?
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I would request your August office, Honorable Speaker, and through your directive. We want to work on facts, Honorable Speaker. Is the ministry, or you should direct the ministry to give us fact on paper of who has been placed on what band per constituency, so that we know, and we also do a follow-up, so that we talk from a point of information.
Thank you.
So that we are not just told by the applicants, but we also have that information, and we also help them follow up. Thank you. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Meli, I will not invite the PS. All the other interventions have been generic. So I'll invite you as the chair of the committee.
Thank you.
To do a recap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first of all, let me thank you more sincerely that we've heard this Kamukunji, and these Kamukunji members have really given their opinions, they have given their questions, they have really ventilated on this, and I think, members, you've done extremely well. If you look at the issues raised by each member, they are actually very particular to particular students, to particular constituencies, and these are the issues affecting the country. And as a Committee of Education, I think, Mr. Speaker, we have competently tried as much as possible to prosecute these issues with the ministry, with the minister, with the PSS, with the funding agencies. But I'm glad that today the issue that we have been pushing over and we've not completed with them is the issue of MTI. I want to thank the member for Angweth, especially by noting that a funding formula is very dynamic. When you bring a 1975 model or a 1990 model to try and use it for 2021, it is a disservice to the nation. And I want to say this, many Kenyans have not known that funding models are being used across, like revenue sharing formulas for KRA or for the Revenue Sharing Commission. Funding, the funding formulas need to be changing because of the issues that change in the society. A variable that was well measured about 3 or 5 years ago cannot be applicable today. That's why I want the peers and the agencies to take these issues very clearly, and as a way forward, Mr. Speaker, through your office, they need to give us timelines and dates when these MTIs issues are going to be reviewed per the variables, so that they reflect on the needs on the ground. It is a very good formula. It needs efficiency. It needs accurate data so that people are actually doing it. Banks have been using mean testing, especially on loanees. We have been using it in the banks every other time. And when you are applying for loan, for example, 10 million, the banks will review it down to 1 or 2, depending on the variable that you normally sign. 2 is the issue of communication. And I want to really say this. It is not only in education, it is in the whole government sector. Communication is key. And Mr. Speaker, you know very well that when you lack communication, what takes center stage is going to be misinformation, it will be innuendos, it will be rumors, it will be miscommunication. And that's why the ministry needs to take it up. The PS knows it very well that we've been complaining about it, not only even in the university funding, even in CBC. A good system can be destroyed by lack of communication down to the village level. And this, we need to do it both electronically, by way of interpersonal communication through barasas, and even by way of telling it out, even in churches and in barasas. So this is something that the ministry needs to take it up, and we've been pushing them all through. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I just want to really thank the members, especially on collecting loans, collecting bursaries. If we can collect all bursaries down from the constituency, both public and private, we declare education free in this country. And I want to say this because I've been in discussion with the Budget Office of Parliament, with the Ministry of Education Office, and I think Mr. Masinde was here a few minutes ago. I have done it severally. And we will do this, first of all, develop a paper on how much all the bursaries are, both in government and in private, so that we can see how much can we add the government capitation plus bursaries, and make sure that we issue one statement, no fees charged, not even a shilling, in all public institutions, if that is going to be enough, and see how much we can be increasing it yearly, maybe at 2% based on population, based on inflation, and we can therefore have a very, very easy management of education funding in this country. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, and that's the least one, is that I want to, and we have been saying this to the ministry, let application for funding be together with application for placement. So that when a student is applying for university placement at the end of 4 years, let him or her apply the issue of funding together.
Elachi, you are disturbing the house.
Let the student apply for university placement plus funding conclusively together. So that if there are issues that are raised here, like appeals, like wrong band, it is being addressed as early as January, so that by May, June, those issues of funding and everything else is complete. This issue of applying bursaries or for funding late in the year, 1 month to university admission, is quite not right. And I think that the ministry has to get that. And I think we've told them, let them have one portal where the student is just applying, the last part of it is funding. And when there are complaints, let the complaints be addressed between January, when the results are out, and May, and everything will be okay. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, most sincerely for your patience, and I want to thank members for the very, very good input that you have come in. And I want to ask the ministry, through the PS, kindly take up, I think you have taken enough notes. Please let us see a society where the issues of these members have been addressed and the issues that have been raised are addressed. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
PS and your team and members, I want to encourage us that what we have had this morning and this afternoon is very, very important. I call this Kamkunji even as you are on recess because of the issues surrounding this very important process of funding and keeping our children in institutions of learning, particularly universities and other higher institutions. The engagement has been wonderful. PS and your team you have had. I'll direct the clerk to avail to you a transcribed Hansard of these proceedings so that you get to know what each member said, the concerns of the members, the representatives of the people, and encourage you that by the time we resume the House on 17th of September, I will direct the majority leader to invite your minister to this House as a furtherance to this process we have started today. We want to hear from your ministry what you are doing to consolidate the bursary schemes in the country. We have a lot of duplex processes, like we said. I think the chairman has said, many members have said. We have an MCA giving bursaries, an MP giving bursaries, a constituents based, a women rep are giving bursaries. We have governors giving bursaries. We have your minister giving bursaries. We have banks making their own interventions, and so on and so forth. All these are public resources. If you pull them together, it will not be beyond anybody's imagination to have free education in this country up to university level. Because those duplex activities are just eating away public funds. And schools are competing, which MCA is giving money, which MP is giving money. Put that money together, bring us a report after we resume, and let's see what other interventions the House of Parliament and the executive can collaborate to help the people of Kenya. Because listening to everybody here appears, you can hear the data you are using may be correct because it's self-generated, but people are not properly informed. If you know our communities, people have got the fear of declaring themselves poor even when they are. So they end up putting in information that gives a falsehood that you have some wealth which you don't have. And that social shame about poverty is real. So continue having those desks, continue appraising these processes. A good idea can always give way to a better idea. Let's take this as work in progress. And let's have your ministry, led by the minister himself, come here when we resume. Merely ensure, as the chair of the committee, that the Hansard is transcribed and passed on to them so that they can follow. Vice Chancellor who was here, many members came to me agitated that Vice Chancellors, you're also engaging a bit of a reverse gear on this process because it's taking away some of your privileges of making money for your universities. I don't know if it is true. But it is not about one Vice Chancellor or one PS, it's about all of us. Let's get together and get things done and done properly. Lastly, as a ministry and indeed as the whole government, please invest time and a bit of resources in public communication. The public is not being informed enough of the good things that you are doing behind closed doors. Until you came here today, some of these things were strange to everybody. Members didn't know, others have picked up from what others said, from what you said, to ask very informed questions. So try and put some energy, some resources, and some industry in public communication. Let the public know what you are doing. Let the public get to understand and appreciate what you are doing. Thank you very much. Enjoy your vacation. The Kamkunji is now adjourned, and we may now take our leave.
Thank you, dear. Yeah, thank you. Asante. Yeah, asante. Asante. Thank you. Hey.
I thought so. You see, there are people who go